Hello, grade 12s, and welcome to the Applying to University presentation. Today we're going to cover lots of important information about applying through the ouac.on.ca website. First things to consider, you need to know which schools and programs you're interested in. We talked in September about the importance of doing the research in advance, and hopefully you've already done that. There is still some time to do that research, and you should be well along on that. When you're going to be applying for university, you will be able to choose 3 programs for $150. $150 is the flat rate. However, for each additional program, and if you make a change, there will be an additional $50 fee. There is no fee for modifying a program choice within the same university. However, once you change universities, then they are going to charge you the $50 for making that change. So therefore, it's really important to make sure that when you do submit your application, you're satisfied with your decisions and what you're applying to so that you can avoid excessive fees. Now, one of the things I want to remind you about, and again, this was in the presentation back in September, is that universities do offer alternate offers of admission. So not all universities, you need to research this, but for example, a student who's applying to an engineering co-op program may not get into the co-op program, but may be offered the alternate offer of admission into the engineering program. Or a student who applies to the concurrent education program may be offered a Bachelor of Arts program. So if it's about going to a specific university, you need to make sure you understand how do their alternate offers work. Choose at least one program that you're absolutely sure you're going to get into. We call that the safe choice, and one that you can still be happy with. And of course, we want you to fulfill your dreams and apply to whatever is your number one ultimate dream choice. Now, when it comes to completing applications, we have no access to your application. You do need your PIN number. From what we understand, they are going to be mailed directly to your home after November 1st. The deadline to apply is January 15th. There are video tutorials available online at ouac.on.ca. Click Undergrad 101 and then the how-to videos. OUAC is the Ontario University Application Centre. They are the ones who oversee your application and distribute the materials required to the universities that you have applied to. Applying can be an ongoing process. Therefore, if you receive your PIN number, you can start right away, going in, checking out the application, leaving, and then coming back again. It is not something that has to be done all at one time. Submit and pay are incredibly important, obviously. A student who maybe fills out their application and then forgets to submit and pay by January 15th will be considered late. Therefore, it is really important to finish those last steps. You need to have a valid email address, and we always say make sure it's one you can be proud of, nothing that you'd be embarrassed about a university looking at what that email address is. So make sure it's a good one. And record and print your application number. Once you complete and submit and pay for your application, you're going to get a different number from your PIN. And I'll show you a bit later what that's going to look like. But that is going to be how you're going to access your application every time after you have submitted and paid for your application. I recommend you print it off, you keep a file, maybe you keep a file online, but definitely keep evidence of what your application number is. You will receive an email confirming your application. They generally say check back within 1 to 3 days. If you have not received it, they've asked that you check your junk folder just in case it ends up there. And you can make changes to your application. When you log out, information is automatically saved as you leave the program. Some important dates. January 15th, as we've already said, is your deadline for the Ontario secondary school students to apply. In mid to late February, universities are going to receive from the Ontario University Application Centre all of your final first semester grades. So we will have transmitted your grades for you, and then the OUAC will transmit your final first semester grades. That's all of quadrimester 1 and quadrimester 2 grades to your various universities. Between late April and early May, the universities will then receive from the OUAC again your second semester midterm grades. So let's clarify that. We are going to be sending those marks late April to early May, so they will have likely your quadrimester 3 final marks. If not your finals, they will at least have your midterms from that semester 2, quadrimester 1, or what I like to call quadrimester 1 or quadrimester 3 grades. The courses that you have been taking from February to the middle of April. At least they will be getting your midterm marks. That's the minimum they will receive. On May 27th, that's the latest date by which all secondary school applicants will receive a response from the Ontario University. The response will either be an offer of admission or a refusal, or in some situations, there is the opportunity for a wait list. Not many universities do this, but we are seeing more doing it nowadays. June 1st is the earliest date that the universities can require a response to an offer of admission and a financial commitment. So what that means is you have a very short turnaround from May 27th to June 1st to make that final decision. You can only accept one offer, therefore you need to be able to make that decision very quickly. Regarding the financial commitment, generally the financial commitment is around residence. They're going to look for a deposit for residence, and you're going to have to fill out your paperwork if you are looking to go into residence in order to secure a spot. July 13th, OUAC transmits all remaining final grades to the universities. So that is going to be your June final report card will be transmitted July 13th. So this is how you apply. We're going to go to the Ontario University Application Centre, which is www.ouac.on.ca, and you're going to click Undergrad 101. It says specifically there that's for current Ontario high school students. That is the correct application for you. I've also included this step-by-step guide. So here's a link if you are interested in a step-by-step guide. They have more and more videos available now, so they really are great to look at. Once you apply now, click Apply Now, you're going to be creating your account. It's the first time, so therefore you do not have a username and password. You need to actually create your OUAC account profile. That is when you're going to be using your PIN letter information. So these PIN letters that are being mailed to you after November 1st, once you open them, will have these 3 access codes. We have a school number for Central Peel. You're going to have your student number, which tends to be 6 zeros plus your Peel student number. And then you're going to have a temporary PIN number, and that will be cap sensitive. So you need to make sure you follow it exactly. Just wanted to say about those PIN numbers and why it's so important to make sure it's precise. That PIN number is what connects your application to the information that we will have already sent, which is your educational information. It all gets connected once you access it through your special PIN number. So, selecting your programs. This is a very easy application, and it's a step-by-step process which none of you will have any difficulty with. But I did put here that you can search in the application by university or geographic area. Most of you are going to search by university. A few of you may have found the fast track option, which is there's an OUAC code. You could put the program code in here and it would find the specific program. That is fine, but definitely don't worry about that. Most of you will want to search by university. Once you've selected your program choices, they do request you order your choices. So if you have three, you're going to order them one, two, three. If you have five, you're going to order them one to five. The choice does not affect scholarship or admission consideration unless the university specifically states that it does. So you have to go and look at Ontario University's info.ca, look at that information around acceptance and see. But I have to say that in my experience in recent years, there doesn't seem to be a lot of pressure for students to rank their orders. No, that you choose that university as the first choice. But what might be helpful is if you're applying to more than one program at a university, ranking which program is your first choice above your second choice. I'm going through this rather quickly, but I just want to point out there is a link on the side that shows you all the steps you're going to go through: the welcome, the personal information, the contact information, checking out your academic background information, browsing the programs, putting in your program choices, and then some additional details. I have jumped ahead to fees. You can see at the top here, this person has applied for 3 programs and the total fee is $150. For each additional program, it's going to be another $50. You are going to pay in the application. Oh, sorry, before I get to that, I'm going to talk about these questions. So you have to answer some additional university details. There's about 9 questions, I believe, that they're asking you to answer. It's simply because they retain data as opposed to more, it's not so much about whether you're going to be accepted or not, it's more about the data that they collect on the students that apply. So, not applicable. I have this up here because one of the questions is my number of years outside of Canada. That is further down in the application. You are going to click not applicable if you have spent no years outside of Canada. However, then they're going to ask total years in Ontario high school. That is including the current year, and most of you will answer 14 as you are going to include your kindergarten years. So it is important for you to figure out how many years you have been in the Ontario school system. Here we go. Here's the paying for your application. Okay, so you can pay for your application with a couple different means. Of course, credit card, or they also do accept online banking. It is going to be important that you have your OUAC number when you're paying for your application. And here's the number that I was speaking about. Once you submit, you have to verify your information and you have to submit and pay. Then you will receive a finishing statement. And that will be thank you. It will take at least 1 day before the online changes show up. But this over here on the left is what we call the OUAC reference number. You'll notice it's 2000XX. This year it will be 2021 because you are starting in 2021. And then it will be followed by 6 digits. So again, I've given the example of XXXXX. So look for a OUAC reference number 2021-6 digits. This is really important to make sure you keep this information because every time you need to go back into OUAC, whether it's to see if your marks were uploaded, whether it's to see if there's any special messaging, or maybe to see your final offers, and to accept your offer, you have to have that 2021 OUAC reference number. So We talked about this in September. Universities see all your grades from grade 11 on. So there's no holding back of any specific courses. There's no saying these are the courses I want to send. Uh, all courses that are grade 11 or grade 12 will be sent. Sometimes I am asked if the universities care if you took the course last year, the grade 12 course last year when you're in grade 11, or maybe you took a grade 11 course when you're in grade 10. No, that does not factor in. The date in which you took the course does not matter. They are looking for the code and the mark. So transmission dates, I briefly spoke to this already. This is just going to clarify it. So mid-February, we're hoping to send your marks based on your January finals. That will include both your Q1 finals and your Q2 finals. In late April to early May, another transmission will take place. And here's the clarification. It will be based on your Q3, quadrimester 3, or semester 2, quadrimester 1 midterms. And then in July, we will complete the transmission with your June report card. It's really important here. The universities will then be looking for these things. They're going to look for, was your diploma granted? Are your 40/20 hours submitted? And what about the OSSLT? So just to clarify, again, we sent this out a couple weeks ago. The Ministry of Education has changed the rules for grade 12s this year. If you have yet to complete your 40 hours and have them submitted, the ministry has made an exception and is accepting 20 hours this year. As long as you have your 20 hours, make sure you complete the form that is online and in our Google Classroom and submit it to your guidance counselor as soon as possible. There's no reason to delay. Regarding the OSSLT, there was also some communication in that transmission, I believe, maybe I'm wrong. So this year, the Ministry of Education is saying if you've yet to successfully complete the Ontario Secondary School Literacy Test, you will have an opportunity to write it in the spring, or you are encouraged to take the Ontario Literacy course. If there's any errors in any of these transmissions, you need to email your counselor so that we can look into it. There may be the opportunity to, or the requirement for additional admission criteria. An example would be a portfolio in the case of a design type of program or an arts program, an audition in a performance program, or very common is the personal information form. Sitting through a few of the sessions this year, it seemed that more and more universities are going back to having these personal information forms. They call them different things, but basically trying to garner what is it above and beyond the marks that they want to know about you. The questions can be different, and there's not going to be a consistent expectation across the different universities. But what is consistent is if they require the personal information form, it is required, and there's going to be a deadline, and that deadline will be sent to you after you have applied by the university. And you need to meet that deadline, or else they will not consider you for the program. Regarding language proficiency requirements, usually for university, we're looking at most universities saying 4 years in an English medium school, such as an Ontario English school, or an English school back home in another country where English was spoken 90% of the time, which makes it an English medium institution. And you can, if you're in that situation where you spent 2 years in Ontario, but all your prior education was in an English medium school, what you are going to have to do is prove that you are in an English medium school and have the documentation sent from that school back home to your future universities so they have evidence that you were in an English medium school. Unfortunately, Central Peel cannot do that for you. That is something you're going to have to do on your own, but it is often worthwhile because it's often less expensive than what you're going to pay for a literacy test or a proficiency test, sorry, which is the IELTS or the TOEFL test, which are quite expensive and, of course, a little stressful. So if you do have this background, the English medium background, do consider the option to have your institution back home send information to your universities to establish that you have English proficiency. More important information includes if you're taking night school. This is specifically in regards to if you're not taking it through Peel. So if you're taking it through the Catholic school board, Notre Dame, or whatever the Catholic school might be, we do ask that you inform and or remind your guidance counselor that you're taking it, simply because we don't remember every kid that signed up for night school at Catholic, but it would be important for us to be able to add it to your application. That is specifically for semester 2. In addition, if you decide you're going to take summer school, or maybe you're taking a course through a private school, you need to arrange for the grades to be sent. That is not something that Central Peel can do on your behalf. If you have had a death, serious illness, serious problem affecting your grades, it may be taken into consideration. I spoke of this back in the presentation in September. You need to establish that, in fact, it has dramatically impacted your grades or your performance, and then they may take it into consideration. And just a reminder about scholarships. Yes, scholarships are based on leadership opportunities, volunteer experiences, and excellent grades. These are often at the forefront of scholarships. We do see more and more scholarships with other criteria, so it's definitely worth checking it out. So I spoke about Iconic before. Definitely get on there, register. They'll send you information about possible scholarships you could be considered for. We will be hosting our How to Fund Post-Secondary presentation in February. You can look forward to that coming your way. And that's all about OSAP and other ways to raise money for your post-secondary education. You can explore the Ontario University's info site to see what scholarships and bursaries are available through your institution that you're applying to. Scholarships is based on academic merit. Bursaries would be based on financial need. You can check with your parents for workplace scholarships. And last year, OSAP will let you begin your application early. And whereas normally you have to wait until you have accepted the university, you know exactly which program you're going to and all the details there, they are allowing you to apply earlier and get a sense of whether you'd be eligible for a grant or a loan. If you have an IEP in high school, you would likely want to see that continue in university for the extra support. If you don't know if you have an IEP, that means you don't have an IEP. If you have an IEP, I know you have an IEP. So it's up to you to contact the university to learn about their services and make sure that your IEP can be supported. This is a website that is pretty handy. It takes you from their site to the university's special education supports. For admission decisions, the earliest time you're going to look at getting offers, I always say February to April. I do find more and more students are hearing from some institutions even in January as soon as they apply. And who knows, maybe this year you'll see more of that because you'll have, um, I don't know, just different criteria that they're working on. But generally, I say the earliest offers are between February and April. They're all considered early acceptance. As I said previously in my other presentation, you cannot apply for early acceptance. By applying by January 15th, you will be considered for early acceptance. So if the university does make early acceptance offers, it will come sometime generally between January and April. And you know that those marks are often going to be based on grade 11 marks, or the marks that you did last year. Universities must decide by May 27th, and every spring I get to listen to the university representatives, and they tell us that 80% of their offers get sent out in May. Therefore, I don't want anyone to feel poorly if they haven't heard by the beginning of May. It's probably a case where your institution is holding back and wants to see more information about how you're doing in your grade 12 year before making that offer. Regardless, whether you get an early acceptance or an offer May 27th, they are all conditional, and they are conditional on what you achieve by the end of June and what your final average is. The students must respond by June 1st to accept their offer. If you miss that deadline, the offer will be revoked. So, you may have questions. If you do have questions, I'm asking you to please write them down and mark the following date and time in your calendar. I am going to do another Q&A. This one's going to be specifically on how to apply to university on Wednesday, November 4th between 12:30 and 12:45. I am starting with college at 12:15, and then we will be moving to the university Q&A at 12:30 on Wednesday, November 4th. An invite will be sent to all graduating students by Tuesday, November 3rd.